Hello and welcome to the Still Standing series. I'm your host, Coach Violet Coots, and I'm so happy to have my special guest today, Cathy Mogler. I'm a Christian life coach, equipping and empowering individuals to live their true identity and be who God created them to be. I'd love for you to grab my free biblical affirmation cards so that you could start renewing your mind and living in that freedom today. And if you're feeling stuck in any area of your life, schedule a free breakthrough session with me. The link will be in the show description. Hello, Cathy. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. So, as we start here today, why don't you just tell the listeners a little bit about you?
Well, there's a whole lot about me, but I'll tell you
Okay.
just a little snippet.
Give us the
I
highlight.
am I am a wife. I am a mom. I have two daughters and a son they're all married with children, so I have three grandkids. Um, I live here in Montgomery, Texas. I'm originally from Michigan and lived there for 40 some years. Met my husband, and then we lived in Colorado for a little while, and but we've ended up here. We've been here since 2006. So yeah, so we're enjoying these nice balmy, weather while they're cold and freezing up north.
Right.
So my mom and my son still lives in Michigan. So
Uh,
yeah, so yeah.
oh, that's awesome. Awesome. Well, just share with us, tell us a little bit about your walk with Christ, when that began and some of the things that maybe he's brought you through during that time.
Mhm. Um, I will try to keep this as short as possible, but I'm kind of a product of my mom and dad were divorced when I was young. My mom was kind of I don't want to say a hippie because I don't want to dishonor my mom, but I really grew up in an environment that wasn't great for a kid. It was a lot of, drugs and rock and roll and um, really just my dad was like not estranged, but he always lived somewhere else, so I was always the kid who just went and saw him in the summertime, right? And probably, when I was about 12, my mom remarried, and then we kind of did a total flip. We went from no church to a lot of church. And not only was I in public school, I went into Baptist parochial school. So it was a big, big change for me. But it was great, right? It was very small. It was kind of a startup Christian school. And I graduated from there, left home very early, was out on my own at 17, and just worked and as I spent the bottom line was is that when I was at home and went to the Baptist school, I mean it was like church on Sunday morning, church Sunday night, church on Wednesday nights, youth group on Thursday. And by the time I got out of high school, I was so over it. I was like, I just want, of course, you think you know everything, at 17. That's why I left home because my parents were still like, you still have a curfew and you have these things. I'm like, no, I'm going to be 18, got to go, And so I went out into the world and it was crazy. And I made, terrible decisions and was married young and was divorced and, pretty much raised my son on my own and didn't remarry again until I was 41. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, or actually engaged at 41 and got married again at 44. So, there was a lot of years in between there where I was, probably having too much fun. Sin is not fun. I'm just saying, or sin
Right.
is fun and you shouldn't be doing it. But anyway, but in that journey though, I was always, I would always go back to church like periodically because there was something missing, obviously. Right. So, I did went to a Christian counselor for a while and really kind of dug into the fact that, Jesus was with me the whole time, like the whole time. Even when I was little, when I was alone a lot and I somehow made it on a bus that took me to church on the other side of town. Nobody even knew I was gone, but I would sit in big church big church all by myself. Like I was a little. I can't believe nobody said anything to me, right? But
Wow.
yeah, so so I always, just kind of kept in touch, and then when I was in the middle of my, my chaotic 30s, I had a dream, and Jesus came to me in my dream, and I was so overwhelmed with the fact that, and it was interesting because like he appeared as he was like a concrete statue. It was like a statue. And I was painting it with water. You know how concrete will change its shades as you paint it. And as I was painting it, it was like it came alive. And then I saw him as like a young man, with, curly hair. And I was like, wow.
Wow.
And
Yes.
then
Wow.
it was wow. And then I saw the crown of thorns, and I was broken.
Oh, wow.
I was broken. And I was hugging him and I was saying, they're going to do terrible things to you. Like, this is going to be terrible. And he's like, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Don't worry. And it changed my life. It really did.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, I went on to, get to church, and I sang. I'm a praise and worship leader. I've done that for years. And at that time, I started, singing in the band at church, and so it just got better and better and better. Um, yeah. So
That is
so,
amazing.
I think, part of what I'm doing today is just letting women know that it doesn't matter where you are, right? Like whatever stage of life or trauma or drama, right? Is that, Christ is going to meet you where you are,
Yeah.
and love on you, and you will make it through because you're not alone. And that's really, yeah, yeah. Even, today, anything that comes up against you, right? You're not in it alone, and you just
Right.
have to trust, and you rely that, Jesus is there to get you through it, to show you through it. Not that it's going to be easy, but you're not alone, right?
Right.
Um, yeah, yeah,
And that makes that verse, he says, He will never leave us or forsake us.
right.
And, I think of that when you're saying that. And talking about being alone, I think that's one, the enemy wants us to always feel alone. He wants us to be isolated and to believe the lie that, we are alone, that there is no help, there is no hope, or
Right.
not going to make it. And, but, when we can get a hold of the truth that, there is a God, there is
Mhm.
Jesus, He's right there. And,
Right.
I think another lie that, sometimes we believe or is out there, it's like, well, He won't see me or He won't come to me. I can't, in my state where I am, and I've got to clean something up,
Right.
to
Right.
come to
Oh,
Him.
for sure.
And,
I still
that's
do
not
that.
Jesus, that's
Right.
but
Yeah.
He's
I still
there.
go through periods of that where I go, wow, and I'm no, we'll get into what I do now, but I often think I I don't, I don't know enough, right? I'm not that I'm not worthy, because, when you say that you're not worthy, or you say I can't do this because I'm the shame factor, right? I heard somebody say once that every time you do that, you're putting Jesus back on the cross,
Mhm.
right? You're making him suffer again. You don't he did it once, that, one and done. You can receive that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. I
No,
interrupted you.
no, you're fine. That's true. But I was just thinking, we're not alone. And I think that's very,
Right.
that's very important. And and so, so where has He brought you to though now? What are you doing? You talked about being a worship leader and you're a worship leader and everything, but He's taken your life and He's using you in some just wonderful ways and stuff.
Hmm.
So go ahead and talk about where He's brought you to.
Yeah. So, in my walk as a praise and worship leader, my job, right, my big girl job was I've been in publishing all my life. I've been in the magazine business pretty much all my life. I've either started a magazine, I've consulted with other publishers, did design work, um, marketing, public relations. So and my dad was even in the magazine business. So that's kind of how I got started in that way. Um, at the age of like 24, I was working at a newspaper. I was selling advertising. So I've really, been around that world, for my entire career. So the last position that I had, when that came to a close, I was close enough. I wasn't, I just didn't want to start another career, right? I'd worked full time for years and I was just like, I don't want to go work somewhere else. I'm done.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you need to do something, right? So the, the, I'm currently publishing, I'm the publisher for the Sisterhood Magazine. And that came about because at a time when I was and it was on the back burner for like 15 years, right? It's been in and out of my peripheral because every time I want to do it or move forward with it, it was always, you need a job and you need to make real money, basically. Right. Um, so it was that fear factor, right? I couldn't
Right.
step out of the boat. I
Right.
couldn't do it. Probably could have done it then. It would have been just fine, right? But that it wasn't time. It wasn't God's timing,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
And so we started this in May of 23. I have a partner. She's my creative girl. She's from Michigan, so she is an acquaintance from long ago. And so we jumped into it. And it has been, when people say to me, how this is incredible, right? Like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't know how to not do it. I've done it for so long, right? It's not a stretch, right?
Right.
But but I always have to say, and what is my why, right? My why at this point in my life is I have done, good and faithful servant. Right. I don't want to be the person that, and there's a big responsibility, right? There's people from all over the world that is reading the magazine more than I could ever imagine, or dream.
Wow.
And it has been every time I get a notification, like just last night, I got somebody from Russia, right? So every
Wow.
time I get a notification that somebody's reading, I pray, that whatever they're reading speaks to them and changes their life.
Yeah.
But to be in the seat where something like that is happening and the Holy Spirit, Jesus is using you for such a calling, right?
Yeah.
It is those times where there's so many times where I have to stop and just go, wait a minute. I want to make sure, that I'm doing the right thing, right? So I'm praying over it and praying the blood of Jesus over it. Praying for the Holy Spirit to work through me. I mean, it's, um, yeah, yeah. But even just this morning, I got up, I started journaling, and I'm like, okay, what do I, what am I thinking would be really great as I'm journaling about my, just my regular devotion in the morning,
Right.
right? Which, by the way, everybody, first thing in the morning, pray, read your Bible, and journal. There's no other way to start the day, right? Put Jesus first, and everything else will fall in place. And that
Yeah.
is so, so true. There's no truer words, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just journaling this morning, I came up with what I believe at this time is going to be the theme for the next 3 editions. I mean, I'm
Yep.
thinking way ahead,
Yeah.
right? Um, but yeah, so that's what I'm doing, and I'm just so it is such a privilege to work for the creator of the universe, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And the Lord
Yeah.
who made the stars and named them, and I mean how I mean I can't think of a better boss, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah,
And
so
as you're talking and you're showing, and hear your career that you had all those
right,
years, now you're doing something something that you love, and then you're doing it, with that purpose. And it's, and I think sometimes we all want, you're just like, well, what's my calling, or what am I supposed to be doing? What's this? And we think it's this big thing, that's totally different. Sometimes it is. I mean, I spent 40
right,
years in insurance, and God has called me out a few years ago and said, now it's time to be a life coach. And I never dreamed of being a life coach, that I'm going to be that I'm sitting here with a still standing series. But this still standing series, I honestly came out of my walk with him, when I was going through things. And it's like, I don't feel like people see the both sides of, that walk of God. A lot of times, well, I'm blessed, I'm so blessed, but and I would sit in circles, and I was like, well, I'm not I can't share my thoughts, because I'm not there. I say, take off our mask. We go to church with our mask on, and it's like, you get
sure.
picture perfect thing, and it's not, it's a lie. And so, but the things that I've gone through and experienced, now he's using them. He's taking that, and he uses everything. He wastes nothing. And it's beautiful to see, all the different ways of how he puts things together. We're all unique. I was thinking about our uniqueness this morning, and it's like, I don't know that we celebrate our uniqueness enough.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get into
Right.
comparison, and we, think about, oh, what that one has. But our uniqueness, he takes that, and he wants to do something beautiful with that. And
Sure.
so, you know, hear you doing all your publishing and stuff, but you had that desire, and now you're doing a desire of your heart. He's giving you a desire of your heart, and that still has all come, that regardless of your initial, how you started, you know
Right.
and
Right.
I think
Well,
that's what I'm trying to say is, he redeems.
yes, he redeems that. Absolutely.
He
Yes.
redeems.
Yes. What is it? Double for your trouble, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I honestly, I know this sounds terrible, but I think a lot of people can relate to this, especially girls my age. Like, thank goodness there was not video and YouTube and TikTok and all of these things now, because, you know, if you look back on your youth and the mistakes that you made and the choices that you made, that if you were, I used to have a minister that used to say we all need to have like a transparent brain so we can all kind of see who we really are. And I'm like, oh, I don't think that's a really good idea. I think that's a terrible idea. you know, I
Uh,
wasn't prepared at that point. And I think that even still, even, at my age now, it's still an uncomfortable question,
right.
right? It's still, it's not that it, you just, especially depending on what you do, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But, you know, kind of getting back to our career, all of the mistakes, all the places that I've been, all of the choices that I made, it is a tapestry. And I guess that's the best way I can just, describe it. It is the weaving of the tapestry of your life.
Yes.
And you had that journey was on purpose.
Yeah.
God purposed that journey for me, is sometimes as terrible as it was, right? He knew what he was doing. There was no surprises there, because he knew that all of that experience, all of those choices, all of those regrets that that would drive me to my knees, right? That would drive me into deep prayer, that make me look at who I was and how he was bigger than all of it,
Yeah. That's
that
beautiful.
he took it all, and
Yeah.
that so that I could see it, to give me the revelation, right? That it was all for a purpose and a reason, and the magazine, I think sometimes I feel is kind of my way of having a transparent
Right.
brain, transparency, right?
Yeah.
Through stories there, because I know that there is redemption in trauma. I know there's redemption in sexual abuse. I know that there's trauma in there's deliverance in drug addiction. I know because I've been there. I've seen it. I've experienced it. And that is that if you're going through hard times, I think if people could remember that this is going to be part of your testimony, right? This is going to be part of your story that you can tell other people that you've been delivered from, because your purpose is people, right?
Right.
Your
Yes.
purpose is people, and bringing people into the love of Christ, bringing them the hope of heaven,
Yes.
right? Um, so that they can have peace.
Yes.
Right? Aren't we all we're looking for peace in our daily lives,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's the best way. I'm not a minister, but I guess that's kind of the best way that I can say it without bawling my eyes out.
You're right. Well,
I mean, honestly, I could just ooh, it takes a lot for
sure.
me to keep it all in. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah.
even now, I mean, I've had so much. I mean, when I think about being at a Baptist school, going to all the churches, being at church a bazillion times, really hearing what it all does come back to you, right? But even at this point in my life, I say to my husband, I should be able to recite the entire Bible. I should be able to have verses that just come off the top of but it just doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. And even today I'm reading a book, and I mentioned it to you earlier, know what you believe, right? Because when you say I believe in XYZ, right? Or I believe in the second coming of Christ, or I believe in salvation, right? They're going to go, people who are unchurched, who have no clue, are going to go, what are you talking about? Explain that to me, right? Which the Bible is very clear.
Yeah.
Know the word, because you need to know, you need to have head knowledge, right? You need the intellect to to be able to draw the word out so that you can deliver it, right? So I'm reading I'm reading a book called What You Believe. It's what you believe. You believe in Jesus? Well, let's talk about Jesus, and let's talk about, when he was born, and let's talk about true history, right? So that you understand, not only is it heart knowledge, right? Because you love him with all your heart, but if you've got somebody who's going to talk to you about Jesus, you need to be able to present it in a way that isn't. I mean, emotional is good, don't get me wrong, right?
Right.
But you are backing it up with some biblical truths,
Right. Yeah.
the word of God. So yeah. So I don't even know why I went down that rabbit hole, but okay.
Okay. It's all good. It's
I
all
can do that
good.
a lot. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh, well, talking about Bible verses and everything, do you feel like there has been like a verse that's kind of like a life verse, or a verse that's been there always for you? The Bible's full of so many verses. There's no right or wrong answer to that, because some people, feel like, oh yeah, I have a verse. And it's like, no, I don't have that one verse, or I've had a verse, based on the season that I'm in. But what
Sure.
about you? Is there any verse that is kind of like, this is kind of my go-to verse, or a favorite verse?
I always love it when I read verses about being God's workmanship, right? That you are fearfully and you are wonderfully made, right? And it always makes me laugh when I read that fearfully, because in my mind, it's like I feel I can just see God literally thinking to himself, do I really want to give her this, or do I really want to make her this way? Because there's a chance, that fear factor, right? So whenever that fearfully, I just go, does he just sit back and go, I don't know.
I've
This is
never
gonna
thought
be
about that way.
crazy,
That's
right?
good. That's
So,
good.
so I
That's
love that.
I like that. That's good.
That he knows all the, that you're just the things that you do are just never a surprise to him, right?
Right. Yes,
Um,
that's true. That is true.
yeah.
Okay. And knowing what you know now, as you're looking
Mhm.
back on your life and all your experiences and everything, knowing what you know now, what either encouragement or maybe advice would you give to that person who is going to be hearing this and at the moment they're going through, they feel like they're going through the fire or they're about to drown or, and it's just a hard time. So what advice or encouragement would you give them?
I would say trust.
Mhm.
Trust is big. It's hard for people to trust other people, but it's really hard for people to trust in something that they can't see,
Right.
right? It is something they have to experience and something they have to believe. They have to have the faith to believe. But just trusting God's timing, trust Him because He is true. He is not a liar,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
God cannot lie.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you read the Word of God and you read those promises, know that that is true business right there,
Yeah.
right? He
Yeah.
says what he means, and to trust that if you are praying for deliverance, you are going to get deliverance. If you are praying in a job situation, just trust and be patient because he will show up.
Yeah. That's so
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah.
That's good. That's good. Uh, Mentioning the magazine. So, how do people, and I'll have it in the notes as well, but people that want to get the magazine. So how do they get your magazine?
Okay, so super exciting stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so the magazine is quarterly. It comes out winter, spring, summer, and fall. And we also um, have a monthly newsletter called Sister to Sister, and that goes out to our subscribers, right? And you can subscribe through the website, which is the sisterhoodmag.com.
Okay.
Um, and what it does is it has the same type of articles, right, that are in the magazine, and we promote the magazine as well, and we have some events and things that we promote there. But it kind of keeps you in touch with the magazine. So the magazine can be found as a flip book. You can read it at any time. It is on the website. If
Okay.
you want a magazine in your hand, where you can, so some people still like
Right.
paper.
Yeah. I
You
like
can
that.
find it on Amazon. And all you do is just look up the Sisterhood magazine. We have all three editions there, so you can buy it there and it'll be mailed to your home.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, it's pretty, I am humbled and thrilled all at the same time, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's
It's
wonderful.
awesome that I can just go to work every day and know that what you do, because his word does not come back void,
Yeah.
right? Does not come back void. So whatever he has purposed that word, it's all those little seeds,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
All those seeds that you sow for women. It's
Okay.
just such a privilege to be a part of their journey because I think the magazine ends up being a part of a lot of women's journey.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that's good.
yeah.
Okay. That's wonderful. Kathy, thank you for being here with us today. And I know this is going to be a blessing to, again, to everyone who's watches it. And I always like to end by a reminder to our listeners as of the promise that he talked about his promises. And it says, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. So I just invite you, if this has been a blessing to you, like this, share it, leave a comment. Um, and if you haven't subscribed, to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And, just as a reminder that, if you are feeling stuck or you need someone to talk to, then please reach out, make an appointment with me, www.meetwithviolet.com. I would be more than honored to speak with you and talk with you. So God bless you until next week.